But what we're watching is John fighting against himself in a way that's going to put him in a position to have to destroy a fan.
Now I'm fully talking myself into something that's probably not.
Let's go, baby.
John is going to leave a soundly beat R-Truth in the ring. But then the final boss comes out and demands his pound of flesh.
Welcome to the Lariat Lounge. This is the place of hard hits, smart takes, real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, with co-host Andrew Skeens. Brother, how are you doing on this road to Saturday night's main event, man?
Doing good, man. I'm excited to see our boy Ron beat some sense into John Cena.
You think he's gonna beat some sense into John?
I think he's going to try his best. We'll go from there.
Listen, I think Cena. So. Honestly, I don't think you're wrong. But we'll have to see how that plays out. I have some thoughts, and ironically, WWE. You know what? I think WWE listens to this podcast. I think there might be somebody who's got a friend who works on the creative team who listens to this podcast, and they're like, "Oh, that's good. That's good." And then they relay the word back, and then it happens in the show, and I'm sitting here watching and thinking to myself, "Hey, man, didn't we talk about that?"
I think we've been watching wrestling for a while.
I think you're right. And listen, for those of you who have not been listening to the Lariat Lounge for a long time, I don't blame you. It hadn't been around for a long time. But the hope is we will be around for a long time. And if you want to stick around for a long time, then check us out at thelariatlounge.buzzsprout.com. I believe you can subscribe there. You can definitely subscribe on YouTube, and you can follow us there. You can leave comments there. Obviously, it's YouTube, but on the website, you can do the same thing as well. And you can hit us up at thelariatlounge@gmail.com. You can leave your thoughts about the podcast, your thoughts about Raw or Smackdown or any PLE that we recently covered or covered in the past. But honestly, you come here for the conversation. You come here for Skeener and I bantering back and forth about what we love, which is professional wrestling. So if you got some comments on that, feel free to leave those too, man. We're open to just about everything. Let's jump right into this because I literally watched Monday Night Raw this morning. I got stuck doing some stuff last night and I totally forgot that it was Monday. So I did a cram jam session of Monday Night Raw this morning, fast forwarding through some parts that were not necessary. It shortened the show, honestly, to about an hour and 40 minutes.
And we've been, it was a shorter one, wasn't it? It wasn't close to 3 hours. I know that.
No, I think they moved away from that. I think Raw moved away from that. I think they're down to 2 now.
Which is very nice as far as I'm concerned.
I don't disagree. And from what I heard, I feel like Smackdown is following suit relatively soon because that's a long show still.
Yeah, I mean, I love wrestling as much as anyone, but sometimes 3 hours is just, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And I know it's nice to get a few more people on the show, but if I was doing it, we'd maybe shorten some segments up and kind of make it go a little quicker because sometimes it's a hard watch.
It's genuinely a chore. It's genuinely a chore.
SmackDown feels like that sometimes now, especially because you've got no Cody, you've got sparing John Cena, I don't think we had Randy Orton this past week. Honestly, SmackDown seems like forever ago, but
it does.
Yeah, if you don't have some of the bigger names and doing some bigger angles, it can drag.
And honestly, I'm wondering, aside from what's going on right now with Cena and the WWE Championship, I'm not entirely sure if WWE's focus is on SmackDown right now. I know they're telling some stories over there, but I don't know if their focus is really on that program outside of some of the big beats that they're working with.
Yeah, and honestly, it's understandable. Raw and Netflix is the hot new thing. So
true.
I can get a little bit of focus going off that, especially since you've got a champion that is not going to be a full timer. So
this is true. This is true.
The foot off the pedal, to so to speak.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. And I feel like sometimes maybe the idea was that Cody with the WWE Championship is a super big draw. So you can put him on a SmackDown and you can allow Raw, which is WWE's flagship show, right, to carry the flag into Netflix and the 2-hour show. And honestly, they're benefiting from Netflix. I think they're really benefiting from the lack of commercial breaks, the ability to kind of like program in a way that they can't do on network television. Because they're able to get away with a little bit more on Netflix. And I think that little bit more that they can get away with is enough to kind of tell the stories that they want to tell in a way, without having to deal with, you know, any type of real censorship from the network. But either way, dude, like I was watching Raw.
I will be honest, a big thing for me is we're no longer bleeping crowd chants that much on Netflix, and that used to really get on my nerves on Fox. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, no, it's the truth.
Yeah, that would, and it's like they would overdo it, and just you'd be sitting there in silence for like 10 seconds, and I'm like, come on now.
Yeah, we're adults. And we know what they're saying anyway.
Right.
We know what they're saying anyway. I'll say this to, you know, kind of segue into the show segment of the Lariat Lounge today. I think that, well, first of all, let's just get this out of the way. It really sucks for Zoe Stark. And I saw something online with like the caption that was like gnarly injury, and it was like horrific injury. It sounded bad. Like you did, obviously, like I didn't hear like her knee or anything, right? But the wailing that she was making in the ring, oh my gosh. You can tell when it's real and when it's not.
Yeah, that's a rough scene. It's almost like the hush falls over the crowd. Yep. It was almost like a basketball injury where, like, you know, things stop and it's kind of quiet and you just hear the screams of pain. It was a rough scene.
It was.
Really.
It was. Like I said, I didn't see the actual injury. I don't know if they even showed it. Now, were you watching Raw live?
Like yes and no. Again, I got full disclosure to kind of let everyone behind the curtain here. I am a golf instructor here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And with the, you know, I'm on Central Time an hour behind, and now it's getting to summer. I'm starting to use the daylight more to teach. So I got home probably about 45 minutes to an hour after the start, and I just started from there, which again is nice because it already takes out the commercials like we've talked about. So I finished not long after the live show finished. And that's another thing I'll say on Netflix versus like PLEs on Peacock and stuff. Just being able to have a button that says start from beginning is so nice.
I do not disagree with you, man. Like Netflix has been definitely a godsend in that way, just because I sometimes don't hit, you know, start right at 8:00 either. And honestly, I've kind of been doing that on purpose lately. Like I'll start at 8:30 on purpose, just so I have some room to kind of fast forward through some of the fluff in the show and get back to the stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've done that before. I'll do that sometimes when I'm like DVR and things too. And you can start a little late, skip the commercials and maybe some of the other stuff you don't. I always feel a little guilty sometimes doing it. So I try not to do it that much because I'm like, man, these guys and girls, they're working really hard to entertain us. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to them. But at the end of the day, like this is a TV show I'm watching for entertainment. So I try not to carry that burden too much.
You know, I'll tell you this. So I have taken a slightly different stance when it comes to Raw on Netflix now, just because of how their programming works. I feel like Netflix and the way that they air their shows makes me look at how I consume the WWE product differently. And you know what I'm saying? There. And that's pretty much the gist of it. So I think that, you know, the way that WWE gets paid by Netflix the fact that I'm not entirely sure if they track the numbers the way that they used to on standard network television. I'm a little bit more liberal with the fast forward and the rewind, but they had to have known that going into a deal with a provider that allows people to rewind, fast forward, start from the beginning whenever they want. So, and I put a little more emphasis on the writing as well, right? Because it's like, if you're writing something that's not particularly interesting, I will tend to fast forward through it. But I will say this, typically I'm not fast forwarding through the segments with the wrestlers in them. Like, there are these huge gaps where they're advertising different things, even if you don't have the ads, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna skip through all this stuff kind of in the middle. Like,
so what you're telling me is we both may have done a little fast forwarding through Tyrese Halliburton.
oh, I skipped that whole segment.
Yeah, that was a catch up time for me.
Yeah,
While I love that we're getting athletes from other sports and people involved in the product. That was a nice time for me to catch up. That one was not a pause and watch as I was scrolling through.
Yeah, I totally bypassed that. And I'll be honest with you, no disrespect to the man, because I'm not a huge sports person, so I didn't know who he was. But I did remember thinking to myself, I hope they're not putting him in like a match. Like, I saw the two of those guys from the Pacers and the Knicks and grabbing chairs and all this stuff. And I'm just like, please, not on the show. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't care for that type of stuff. I think if used correctly, it can work. But oftentimes when they do certain things like this, where it's like two pro athletes against each other, I don't know. Like, they're not wrestlers, so they're fans, and they may have some inclination towards professional wrestling, but they oftentimes don't translate on the screen well. And I don't know. I personally don't want to see it.
Yeah. So some of them are a little out of their depth on screen. I'm not going to say he was, because
sure,
I'd be lying. I didn't watch it, but I get it, that I get why it happens. It's there for someone. That was not there for me, obviously.
Agreed. You know what I think was there for me, though? Watching Roxanne Perez get her spot in the Money in the Bank match. And two, I swear, dude, we were talking about this.
You can go ahead and gloat on this one.
You know what? It's not even a gloat. It's not even a flex. I think what you said is the truth. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart, everyone that's listening. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. It's not gloating. Like, we've watched professional wrestling for so long that we are being literally spoiled with the amount of good storytelling that WWE is taking part in right now. And I think that it just pays dividends to us, the fans of professional wrestling, to watch the product, to pay attention to what's going on, because they lay these breadcrumbs out there for you, right? And it's so rewarding when you catch one, and then they immediately pay it off in a way that is like tangible and works for the story. So they laid it out there, right? Finn's talking to Roxanne in the background, and he did the same thing with Liv in the past, right? And where Dom has been talking about bringing on a new member, and Finn's been like, nah. Then Finn's talking to Roxanne, and here comes Roxanne being introduced to, the Judgment Day clubhouse. And
in a great segment, by the way. Just why all of those are so good. Again, like when you put it, a week, maybe a couple weeks ago now, we haven't done that many, and they're already running together for me. But when you talked about it's a home for maybe otherwise superstars that wouldn't have a place, but like just getting all those guys in there, and now a couple girls again on screen, and just letting them be entertaining in the background of a segment. Give Dom a plate of chicken nuggets and let him eat. Let Finn's facial expressions in the background tell a story. Things like that. That's really always really fun for me.
I would disagree.
More of that on every show. More of that. Just like let guys be there, let girls be there, and show their personality and build the character without necessarily having to have mic time, having to do it with words, having to do it in the ring. You can do stuff like that, and you can build really a connection with the audience and a persona that people can get behind just by how you act in the background of a segment. And I think that's really something that we missed for a while, but maybe we're getting more of that now.
I agree wholeheartedly. And as far as the segment goes, I thought the segment was excellent. I think it was first of all, that women's match that she was a part of, that was the first Money in the Bank qualifier. And that was, who was that? Who was in that? It was Roxanne, Becky Lynch,
Becky and Natalya.
Okay, look, first of all, too, Natalya looked good. She's always good in the ring, right? But Natalya always looks good in the ring, but she looked really good in the ring. She looked really crisp, right? So it was a really good match. Becky's good. Roxanne is exceedingly good. I think she's incredible. And that match just went off without a hitch. I think it was great to keep Lyra Valkyria in the mix. That was a perfect way to take Becky out of that match. And, it's a good way to keep her relevant in this feud. Even though she beat Becky, I think we had talked about, and I think my prediction was she was going to beat Becky. And then you were going to have Bayley kind of come back and allow Lyra to move on to something else, right? But I never stopped at the time to give much thought to where does Lyra go, right? Well, it's a great idea to keep her with Becky. Like, make this about more than just that IC title and have them really have some animosity. That's going to give, like you stated, right? It puts Lyra in a position where she can really define her edge because she can use it.
Right. She can show an edge because previously she hadn't really shown much of that. It had been kind of not that, her promos and character work weren't good, but they were kind of flat in a way. And again, not her fault, but she had only been able to kind of portray one dimension of that character rather than fleshing it out and seeing her with some adversity, with a rival that's really, trying to take her out.
Yeah. No, it works well. It works really good. And it segued so well, that victory for Roxanne, into now the split up between her and Julia. That happened pre-Raw, like it happened before the episode because they lost that tag match.
Yes, and I was going to bring that in. I think it's also good that we talked about last week where Roxanne and Julia they lost that tag match, and I'm like, okay, they don't necessarily need to win. Not everyone needs to come on the main roster and have this big winning streak and go undefeated for however long.
Sure.
But let's see what they do and keep them relevant. And I think what they did was a good way to do it. Have Julia show up in that segment on SmackDown and have Alda say, hey, here's the new member of the roster, and, have her in that segment with, I think it was Charlotte and maybe Alexa were in Aldis's office. Again, forgive me. I'm kind of forgetting the specifics, but yeah, it was more or less that, like there's a segment, here comes Julia. Oh, now she's involved. You all got to watch out for Julia. And they kind of portrayed that, especially Charlotte. So that almost, you don't forget about her and Roxanne losing that match, but you kind of do. Like it's kind of scrubbed off. We're on to something new, served its purpose. Now here they are going on their own and they can, build things from there. Not completely on their own, obviously Roxanne straight into Judgment Day, but they kind of split up that makeshift team, which I think we all thought was a little weird, and we didn't get too much explanation about why they're there together other than, hey, here are two women from NXT coming up. But now we know they're both going to play a role on separate shows, and I'm glad they didn't just like go away from it.
No, I agree. And I think that that's a good way to utilize. It's a good way to bring up NXT talent. I think that they will be more easily inserted into the tag team picture of any division than coming up solo sometimes. I think sometimes that can be hit or miss because there are so many solo acts that it can make for getting on television relatively difficult if WWE does not have a plan for you. So I can see how that would be beneficial to throw together these two NXT talent that you're bringing up, right? Allow them to be on the scene and, viewed by the WWE universe as we watch the programming, and then quickly split them apart, right? And in a way that is conducive to the makeshift thrown together aspect of the team, right? Which is, dude, we're not a team. There is no us, and we go on our separate ways. Now, I've been deferring to you as the SmackDown guy because I have full disclosure, since we're doing full disclosure stuff today. I don't have cable. And so because I don't have cable, it makes it very difficult for me to catch SmackDown in its entirety. So I'm oftentimes trying to catch SmackDown in as many different avenues as possible, and I miss stuff. So when you told me about that, I totally missed that. I totally missed the segment with Charlotte and Julia, and who else was in that with them?
It was Bliss. I think
Okay.
It started, how now that, segments more flow into one another, especially backstage. I'm pretty sure it started off with Bliss getting interviewed after she had qualified for Money in the Bank. And not to jump ahead, but I want to get your thoughts on some Alexa stuff next.
Okay.
Because I love the way you talk about characters and having, bring in history and all that. But I think Saxton was interviewing Bliss, and then, Charlotte comes through and is going into Aldis's office, and then they're like, hey, we want to talk, and then out comes Julia from the office, and Aldis is like, here's the new member of the roster. There you go. One of those.
Yeah. I don't, honestly, man, I'm not sure. So I did not see much of SmackDown.
Okay.
I didn't see much of SmackDown, so I don't know if I can speak to Bliss outside of the context right now that you give her, because the bit that I've seen of her, the last match that I saw her wrestle, boy, she didn't wrestle at Mania.
No, she came back at the Rumble.
Right, I saw that.
And I think lost shortly after that, and then
she was in the chamber.
Gone for a bit. Was she? Yeah, she was.
She was in the chamber.
You're right. Oh, man.
She was in the chamber, and she had some key interactions with some people at the time. And I thought that maybe they were going to do some stuff because they had a little interaction with Liv. And I don't know.
This kind of leads in to where I was going with this but I mean, if you're not able to watch a lot of SmackDown and didn't see this, that kind of tamps that down a little. But I don't have good answers. I'm not sure if you would have. But we kind of need to, and I've always been a big Alexa fan, but I don't know what this Alexa Bliss is. Okay. Because the last time we saw her kind of before this year, she was tangentially involved with Uncle Howdy at the time, a couple years ago. And before that, she was, scary Alexa Bliss with The Fiend and with Bray Wyatt. Right. And she's still dressing like that. She still has the Lily doll she comes out with, but she's obviously being portrayed as, as a good guy, as a baby face. But I just don't know what this character is right now. And I'm hoping we get some of that. And we did get a little of that because Charlotte and Bliss did have an interaction on SmackDown when Alexa kind of was like, hey, Charlotte, I remember you used to be nice to me in NXT. And Charlotte kind of just blew her off and said, I don't really remember. And she actually said, I don't remember that, which was kind of funny. But I don't know what's going on with the Alexa Bliss. I'm hoping we get somewhere with that, but it almost worries me because the last two times we saw her, she just kind of disappeared with no fanfare. So I'm hoping this doesn't happen again because I'm a big fan of the performer and the character, but we'll see where it goes. I think I am justifiably a little concerned about that. Especially because, like I said, I don't know what's going on right now. I don't know who this character is.
I think you're warranted for being concerned, right? I didn't watch much of SmackDown, but I will say this. I have felt for a while, ever since Bliss came back, that they should really drop the whole angle with the Wyatt Six.
especially if they're not going to talk about it at all. Like, I don't think they've mentioned, like, she carries out the Lily doll, which
Yeah.
I get it. If it's just going to be a tribute to Bray, that's very well and fine. But I just want to know, because like last time in the story we saw this was like an evil doll with magic power.
Right.
And now it's just kind of there with no explanation.
Yeah, her character just doesn't make sense right now. I mean, and it doesn't make sense
We don't
because...
know what it is.
Say what now?
We don't know what it is. That's all I want to know.
Yeah, well, it lacks context, right? It lacks context to make the character make any type of real sense, particularly because this version of Alexa is so far removed from the version of Alexa that she used to be. And so, and that character change was instigated by her interaction with Bray and, you know, with the Wyatt family, right? And the Fiend. And it's supposed to kind of roll over into the Wyatt Six. But I believe Bo Dallas is injured. And so
I have no idea.
I feel like I heard that somewhere that he picked up an injury and he's been kind of off TV for a while. But they never really had a direction with the Wyatt Six. Like they were going back and forth with who are they even feuding with? Like the Wyatt Six were feuding with someone for a while before they disappeared off TV.
You know, I really don't know, and I hate that I'm going to have to give this honest take here, because I loved Bray Wyatt. I loved everything about bringing that type of storytelling and that cerebral kind of horror movie influence stuff into WWE. I loved the introduction of the Wyatt Six. I still think that debut segment where Chad Gable was brutally murdered was one of the coolest things they could do. And then they just, you know, they went into this weird space where it was like, we're trying to do Bray Wyatt stuff, but I hate to say it, like maybe that doesn't work without Bray Wyatt to be the guy behind those ideas and someone that can really shepherd that type and style of storytelling that maybe was so unique no one else can do it. And I get the want to keep kind of threads of what was such a strong personality and character that people latched onto and keep that alive, and to attribute to, you know, a wonderful performer and by all accounts person. But I want to love it, and I just don't think it's.
I don't think so either. I feel like when you go down the route with characters like that, you are really threading the needle in 2025. You're threading the needle between what fans are willing to suspend with regards to their belief or disbelief, right? And they are able to engage with the spectacle of it. But I have always felt like the execution of the wrestling is always the part that, in my mind, makes these types of angles really hard to, you know, execute properly. You can't build.
It's got to be done very carefully.
It's got to be done so carefully, because what you're asking the fans to buy into, right, is not something that you can pay off in the ring in a credible way unless the person that you're building up in this position is built up to be the Undertaker. When I say that, I don't necessarily mean exactly Mark Calloway's character, but you have to be positioning them in a way to have something that is grander than themselves and is still tied directly to wrestling, like Taker had the streak, right? You have to give them something like that that's bigger than themselves, or you have to pit them against someone that is equally as grandiose and ridiculous, right? In order to have some sort of payoff that the fans will be willing to suspend their belief or disbelief around, right? It's difficult to build the Fiend, which was honestly cool as hell to watch, right? The entrance was great. Bray's character work was incredible. I'm totally able to just let myself enjoy the Firefly Funhouse and all of the mind games that he's playing, you know, with whoever he's wrestling. And in my mind, I keep thinking about Seth Rollins in the Red Cell match, right? Mm-hmm. And how, to me, it was all cool until the match happened, right? When the match happened, after the entrance and all of that stuff, right? When the cell goes red and the red lights come on, you know what I'm saying? And Rollins I'm supposed to now believe that Rollins can beat this dude. Like, just from a kayfabe perspective, I'm supposed to believe that Rollins is going to beat this guy. And if he beats him, right? What does it say about the Fiend? You have to then take something away from the winner. Like, they should not leave the same way that they entered. You know what I'm saying? And it should be the price that you pay when you go against something as evil and, you know what I'm saying, and dark as the Fiend. Like, it should take something away from you whether you win, and particularly if you lose. I just don't think that WWE at the time, though they seem like they were leaning in that way, they weren't able to fully flesh it out because Bray unfortunately passed.
Yeah, there's that. But I think we both agree on this. You know, we drifted from Alexa to the Wyatt Six, that it's just not working. However much we want it to work, however much I wanted it to work, sometimes you can't run the Bray Wyatt offense without Bray Wyatt. And I think they're maybe discovering that, but we'll see. I didn't know Bo Dallas was hurt, so we'll see if they come back. But again, it wasn't working before. It was coming off as like almost a tribute band.
I was literally about to say the exact same thing.
More than something that can stand on its own. And I don't think has ever had legs in wrestling. Like, if it can't stand on its own, we can't just do the cheap copy.
That's true. I certainly don't disagree. And I think that if it was me, if I was in the writer's room, I would at least be pitching the idea of figuring out a way to either give Alexa all of this, right? And pivot towards her if you're still trying to stay the course in some way, or let's pivot completely away from this. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe over the course of a year or two, phase this out and let's allow Alexa to do what she really did well before, which is infuse her own character into her performances. Because I feel like this carryover from Bray, as sad as it is, I think it's dragging her down, and I think it's handcuffing the writing.
Yeah.
And it's making it very difficult to write her into anything that's significant because they're having to stick to such a narrow track.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe we'll get some more pop-up here. You'll see a full segment. You can kind of see what I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure we're on the same page with Bliss there.
You know, I want to ask you something in reference to this segment, but I'm going to save it for a little later. Okay. Because I want to touch on something with Monday Night Raw. And what I want to touch on is how significant does the World Heavyweight Championship feel right now? I remember watching the end of Raw and watching, Logan Paul, knock out Jay again, right? Which obviously means Logan's not winning on Saturday, right? But
we'll see.
It just made me think, okay, so you've got Logan vying for this championship, right? But then Gunther is right here, and he's in Logan's face. And by the way, Gunther is playing the best great white shark he could be right now, and I love it. But, he's up in Logan's face, telling him, if you take this away from me, my ability to get back at Jay, you're going to regret it, right? And Logan playing this as, at first he's like kind of nervous that Gunther's in the ring, but then taking it way too far when Gunther is baiting him in clearly to the threat he's about to deliver, right? But then Gunther's lining himself up as the next up. But then Seth is going around the entire time like, whoever wins this, if you beat Gunther, you got to deal with me, right? And I'm just like, I can't remember the last time any title was put in a position where it's like, yo, the next 2 to 3 contenders are already in line and they're all at the top of the card right? And they're all making it very known that, hey, I want that spot. I want this title. And, we're going to have a match. I need you to understand that. It's making the world title feel way more important than it felt 2 months ago.
Absolutely. It's for the first time, it seems like in a while, and I'm sure there's been other instances, but it seems like we're eschewing what we used to do in WWE and wrestling as a whole, and that the only guy that really wants the title right now is the guy that's feuding with the champion.
Yeah.
But now we're not doing that. And you're right. It's making it feel important. It's making the title more of a centerpiece, more of a prop in these stories, but it's being prominently positioned as, the thing driving these people. And
Yes.
It's nice to see it driving multiple characters and not just 2, maybe 3 at once. So it's nice to see other stories that are, kind of in their own chapters and not necessarily the world title chapter still say that, hey, this is going to be a chapter in my story too, that this is going to come. And you're right. Like, it's been a while since we've, maybe we've seen the progression, but we haven't been told the what now. I'm sure we'll have twists and turns. Seems like the progression of that title story on screen, and it is making it feel like, oh, this is something people want. Like, maybe your top guy on Monday Night Raw in Seth Rollins is saying like, no, I want this. And, top guy, obviously you got CM Punk there, but he's intertwined with that story. I'm sure at some point he'll come back wanting one of those titles after he gets his revenge. But it's nice to see. And again, I think this is all built off the willingness to let multiple stories and characters weave in and out of everyone else. And everyone's not on their own island and segregated into their own stories. They can interact with a bunch of different characters and things can develop like this. And again, like you say, we're spoiled right now, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are definitely spoiled. I am definitely enjoying it too. I want to ask you, it just popped into my head. Do you think that in the Sami Zayn, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker match, do you feel like we are going to get a Sami Zayn heel turn?
Yeah, we can go ahead and address this now. My prediction is going to be no.
Okay.
I think it'll get teased, but if there was a time, is now the time? I could be persuaded. It's one of those to me that, like, it's just so hard to imagine that character as a heel, but maybe this is the time with enough of the motivation. I have to see you'd have to sell me, if he turns Saturday, you'd have to sell me next that the Sami Zayn character would have to tell me, why now? Now, if the answer is he's going to go with Seth, and this was the ploy from a couple weeks ago when he turned him down, and then, maybe he got beat up enough, he was like, you know what, now I'll roll with you guys instead. I buy that. Other than that, I don't know where they go. That doesn't mean, as always, it's not like I'm not the one they're paying to do this. So people have better ideas than me. But I need to be sold. I don't think it'll happen. I think it'll get teased, but it very well could happen. I'm like, I'd say 60-40. It's not a 90-10 situation for me. That's not going to happen. So what do you think?
So I don't think necessarily that Sami Zayn is going to turn Saturday. I think we agree there. I think we also agree that he may show signs of it, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that every week there seems to be something that, at least in my mind, I see and I think to myself, what is he doing? When he came to the ring, at the end, I think it was like the closing segment. Yeah, it was. It was a closing segment of Raw. When Jay's getting jumped, Sammy comes to the ring, right? At the time, I hadn't realized, based on the camera work, that Jay had rolled out of the ring, right? So I thought that Seth and Braun were still beating up on him when Sammy's music hit, right? Mm-hmm. Sammy comes down to the ring. He hops up on the apron, and I'm sitting here like, why isn't he getting in the ring? Like, why is he just standing there, right? Now, obviously he's waiting for Punk now in retrospect. And it took a little time for Punk's music to hit, but he was waiting on Punk. But I saw that the same way I saw how Sammy appeared to be looking at Jay the night Jay won the championship, right? Mm-hmm. And the same way that Jimmy kind of looked at Jay when he was winning the championship. And maybe it's my mind thinking that a double cross is coming and is making me now biased to everything. But I swear, I feel like I'm seeing these things everywhere. These little signs that Sammy is up to something. And I feel like that trio of Braun, Seth, and Heyman are going to get another person. I don't know who it is. And honestly, though it makes sense based on the story that Seth originally made the offer to Sammy to join, I don't particularly see Sammy joining with Heyman again. So I'm not entirely sure, but I'm like you in this situation.
Which would lead me into there being two, like, you know, if he's not joining with them, then I don't think then we've got to find a way out of, you know, a couple weeks back, he's the one that goes to Punk and says, you know, trust me like we trusted you at War Games. So then it would, if he's turning, it's kind of turning on CM Punk for some reason to be explained. And that I could see that could do it because, you know, maybe the most universally cheered at all time person in the company is going to be CM Punk.
Sure.
At least for the next little bit, just, you know, based on the entire circumstance. So if you want to give Sammy that chance to, one, shine, and two, kind of put up or shut up in a character feud, you could do Punk versus Sammy, and that would be both of those things, a spotlight and a put up or shut up moment.
It could. It could. And in my mind, we haven't got any hints to this, but in my mind, I'm also trying to think of a way to separate Punk from this whole thing, because I know we're going there. Right? At some point, okay, so here's my thing. I do not believe that Logan is going to beat Jay, right? So I think coming out of Saturday night's main event, Jay's still going to be the world champ. That then still connects Jay and Sammy going into the feud with Gunther, right? So we're going to get Jay and Gunther too. I don't see, and this is just me, based on the story that can be told right now, I don't see Gunther beating Jay. I don't see Gunther beating Jay just because you put so much into Seth and Paul and Braun speaking to Jay about the conflict that they're going to have to totally throw all that away because Gunther takes the title. And I think that Gunther would do well to button up his end of this and be able to move on to something else. So maybe Gunther loses to Jay whenever they wrestle, right? Maybe in that sense, I hate to say this, but maybe in this sense, Jay earns Gunther's respect the way that Pat earned Gunther's respect, right? Maybe this is how they start to maybe try to give Gunther something that your traditional face fan wants to latch on to, even though they don't need to, because I think people like Gunther. But at some point, they've got to get the you tapped out chance off of Gunther, right? And so how do you rehabilitate that, right? Is by giving the man a slight sense of humanity through his respect for the ring. And maybe you do that by having Jay beat him again, right? Maybe you can revisit it in the future, but move Gunther away from this for the time being, because you've got a lot of good people that you could put Gunther up against that we have not seen him against yet. And as long as he's still orbiting around this spot, it's going to be difficult to put him there. And we already know where the world titles should be going. It should be going in the direction of Seth. I do believe.
I think right now And to go back to, we have so many players here and around, and like you said, in this orbit, that there are plenty of ways, and we could spend 10 hours talking about all the different ways they could go with all these players. I think there's always an out. Even if, we get to, if you want to get to Gunther and Jay and want someone to win and not, quote unquote, hurt the other guy. Yeah. I think there's so many people that can get involved. The Punk piece, Seth can get involved in any of these matches. Braun and Heyman, Sammy's involved. There's always the tribal chief that has beef with a lot of these parties.
True.
That I think there's so many ways out of that. Again, that's a good thing. That's what you get when you allow so many characters who star in each story. You get so many possible avenues to go. Not to mention, I know you're kind of treating it as a foregone conclusion, but could Logan Paul win the title for 2 nights, for longer than 2 nights? I'm not discounting. Am I predicting it? No. But, man, that would be a crowd reaction, wouldn't it?
You know what, you're right about that. That would certainly be a crowd reaction. I think you would get universal boos for that one. For me being honest, so when you're saying 2 nights, you mean like Logan beat Jay at Saturday Night's Main Event and then a rematch on Raw and Jay gets it back?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it. I don't necessarily know what that would do for Logan. I don't really know what it would do for Logan, but at the same time, I trust that WWE would have some sort of, method to their madness. My issue with that is that, you open the door to this idea that Jay doesn't get it back, because we did get that tease from Gunther, that threat to Logan, right? So I don't know in kayfabe world how the rematch clause works if the person that beat you for the title then loses the title to someone else, right?
Didn't they, or am I imagining that they had something on screen a year or 2 ago where they're like, rematch clause isn't a thing anymore? I feel like that was...
You might be right.
...said, but I could also be creating that in my head.
You might be right. I feel like I heard that too, right? So let's just say for the sake of this conversation that is the case, right? And there is no rematch clause. Okay. If there is no rematch clause, then it's up to the discretion of the champion to allow for a title opportunity. Let's say Logan beats Jay at the main event, right? Mm-hmm. Monday comes around, Jay comes out and he demands a rematch, right? Well, he doesn't have any basis for demanding a rematch, right? And why would Logan afford that to him? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? But then if Logan keeps the title, I absolutely don't think he's going to beat Gunther. You know what I'm saying? I absolutely don't think he's going to beat Gunther. I think Gunther's going to beat Logan and get the title back.
So what if the way to move Gunther away from the title orbit is we get to the match somehow? Gunther attacks Logan because Logan ruined Gunther's rematch with Jay that was coming. And then again, you put Gunther up against former world champion Logan Paul. Who's the crowd going to cheer? Now we get the you tapped outs off Gunther. And I'm just spitballing here. I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't know if I necessarily even want it to happen. But
no, I got you.
Again, when you get all these pieces on the board, there's so many moves that could be made.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And look, I still think I still think that finding something to do, first of all, I still think that as far as Sami Zayn is concerned, right, whether he turns or not, we've got to figure out a way to get Punk away from this feud for a while as well. Because I think, and this is just my opinion, I think Cena has got to revisit Cena v Punk on his farewell tour.
Absolutely. Probably. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think you're probably getting that.
Like, I feel like we have to get that. And in order to do that, right, unless Punk just takes some, hiatus away from this story to go wrestle Cena, right, for a different title because the title's going to be on the line for that match. I just don't see how you pivot from that and then swing back to this Seth stuff unless you find a way to bookend that Seth stuff with Punk and get him away from this somehow. I'm just trying to figure out a way that these stories will continue to branch. But like you said, though, I don't have to figure it all out because they've got so many irons in the fire and so many good quality irons that any way you slice this story, and they obviously have this sliced already, but any way they slice it, the story's going to come out really good. The story's going to come out really good. And that's not even to mention, just talking about Saturday night's main event, that's not even mentioning the fact that the main event of Saturday night is Cena and R-Truth. Right?
Did you get to see R-Truth's interview?
I did. I saw that interview, and I feel like that was another thing that we kind of landed on, which is, R-Truth is like, that's his hero. That's hustle, loyalty, respect. That he learned all of that from John, and he doesn't feel like John has gone to the dark side. John just kind of lost his way a little bit. And as his friend...
Somebody hinted at he may have on this podcast. I mean, you were talking about that, Eve.
I feel like...
our truth think alike, that he's having regrets. And he doesn't really want to be doing this.
Yeah, I feel like that is kind of what he was talking about, right? And I feel like we've been getting those hints from Cena, right? So I feel like we're going to get to Saturday night's main event. I think we all know that Truth is not going to Superman his way into a victory here. I don't think that's the point. I don't think it ever was. I think definitely you're going to get into this match and Truth is at some point, they're going to have this match. John's going to start, really, going, I don't want to say a little too far, but he's definitely going to be beating Truth. And at some point, Truth is going to have some sort of pleading session with John, right? And like a turn away from these wicked ways, Cena, come back to us. I know you don't mean this, right? And maybe you get some Roman Reigns, early bloodline, Jimmy on the sidelines with Jay type stuff where Cena kind of leans into the idea that like, yeah, man, something's not right here. I don't like this. And then have him destroy R-Truth in the way that we wanted Gunther to destroy Pat. Maybe that's why we didn't get that beatdown like that. Maybe they were saving it for Cena, right? Like if you did it with Pat and Gunther, you take a little bit of that edge off so that if it happens again within 2 weeks, we're going to be like, we just saw this.
I did not until this moment consider that that's how this match would go. Because again, I had preordained in my mind what I said last week almost, that they're going to do this for the moment where no matter how much we quote unquote, maybe not even in quotes, know that R-Truth is not going to win this match and become the undisputed WWE champion, that they will give us the moment where you get to the 2.9.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't. And maybe this just serves to actually really show the depths of depravity to which John Cena has turned, where he, like you said, goes a little too far. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, which is, again, another reason why I'm so excited for it. And I know I used the term last week, and I will probably not stop using it, but R-Truth, just the pro of all pros.
Agreed.
Like, talk about maximizing your impact, knows how to entertain, can still entertain no matter what he's doing, whether he's backstage without a mic, whether he's got a microphone, whether he's wrestling, it's going to be entertaining. And to put someone that good with this amount of equity and years of, background storytelling of him mentioning John Cena all the time. And to put that in the ring with still something that's very new to us, which is John Cena on the dark side.
Right.
And he himself is arguably the greatest of all time. To give this story to these two guys with the platform, I think it's the recipe for whatever they're going to do is going to be, I think. And I don't know what that's going to be. and it doesn't have to be one certain thing, but I can't imagine this isn't going to be something good.
Oh, I don't disagree. You know, I had this idea the other day when I was on one of my runs. I was out jogging and it popped into my head. Our truth is a representation of something, right? Just walk with me for a second. Our truth is a representation of something. I think he is in this story, right? If we get a little meta with it, in my mind, our truth represents the fans, right? He is the John Cena fan, right? Literally in his character, right? But also metaphorically in this example, he is the fan. He is the person who believes in John Cena, who believes in the mantra of hustle, loyalty, respect, right? To never give up. He's the fan in the John Cena t-shirt, right? In his mind, as a kid would believe, right? A kid would believe, I could save John Cena. John Cena's lost his way, Dad. I could save John, right? What this does is it puts us into almost like this Shakespearean play, right? Where we're watching this match with John versus R-Truth. But what we're watching is John fighting against himself for some reason, which we still don't know, but fighting against himself in a way that's going to put him in a position to have to destroy a fan. Do you know what I'm saying? All the things that make John who he is to the WWE universe, he is seeking to destroy for a reason that we don't know yet, that he kind of regrets having to do, right? Randy Orton represented the wrestler. He is the wrestler with the lineage, right? In this story, he represents a lot, in my mind, he represents a lot of what pro wrestling is. He's the consummate guy. He's always here. He's never left. You know what I'm saying?
He is steroid suspensions.
Yeah. Yeah. He is that guy. I guess in that way, he embodies wrestling, right? Yep. And he has grown in this business to be someone who is respected by his peers, by the locker room, by the WWE universe, right? And he is segued into a father, a husband, a family man, right? I think it was a reason why he hit John in a weird way, like your biggest failure is that you never became a dad. It was weird. I didn't quite get it, right? But then I started thinking, okay, what if Randy represents the wrestler, right? All of the things that John is seeking to destroy, he is literally going to do in front of us in matches. And those things are going to be represented by people, right? He beat his greatest adversary, arguably, right? Which I think could be hard to argue against that, right? That his greatest adversary in his career was Randy. He beats his greatest adversary by cheating, right? And then his cheating gets called out by the fans, i.e. R-Truth. And then he's going to sink to another low he's not going to respect in himself, right? By destroying a fan. He's going to destroy R-Truth's dreams. He's going to destroy everything that R-Truth ever believed about him, right? And hell, maybe at the end of this, you still get R-Truth never giving up on John. Wouldn't that be poetic to bring him back at the end, right? Where John's right about to go over the edge, and then Truth is still there. He never gave up on John. But I think we're going to get something where we're getting this story within a story that's being told, right? And it was hinted at when we saw the look on John's face after he beat Randy, right? That there's a part of him that really didn't jive with what he just did. You know what I mean? And just like from the beginning, his whole reason for turning heel was very logical and very pragmatic. And the way he played it, he was genuinely a little bit jarred and upset and pissed by the reaction that the fans were having with him. He broke up with the WWE universe for legitimate reasons. And it's weird, this balance that we're playing. Like we said last week, the final boss has not come back yet. What role does he play in this? I think you spoke very eloquently on the idea that interview that we saw with The Rock was The Rock. It wasn't Dwayne Johnson. It wasn't the board member. This is all in service of a greater story. So I feel like John is going to destroy the aspect of the fan in R-Truth. You know what I'm saying? So this story, dude, I swear it is turning in my mind into one of, if not the greatest story that WWE could possibly tell in 1 year's time. The Bloodline was an incredible story that they told over 4 years, right? And nothing against that storyline. I think it's great. I think it stretched so long, however, that some fans don't realize where certain chapters begin and end, right? But I think this Cena story is going to be very tight and concealed in a very definitive start and a very definitive end. And I think that they're going to tell this story in a very well-rounded way that's going to ultimately leave people looking at this thinking, holy crap, what an incredible story that we just got told, and farewell to arguably the greatest to ever do it.
I think so too. And as you were talking and going through how you see these meta and allegorical representations of things. Normally, I would push back on the idea that a story in wrestling is going to be that deep.
Yeah.
But this one, I think, can be, because they've had the time to plan it and the characters and pieces on the board to play with some of your greatest superstars, greatest characters of all time, arguably, again, the greatest at the centerpiece of this, to plan this out in such a way where it can happen.
Yeah.
That way. And I don't doubt that, when we look back, we're going to see what is one of the most ambitious stories they've ever told, because again, they had time to plan it and they can go beat by beat. I definitely don't think this is something they are, throwing together.
No.
And not that anyone thinks that, but I think every step has its purpose. That, again, and this isn't something that we're just saying, we've been saying this, that at the end you'll realize what's fit in the story. And again, I've enjoyed every bit. I'm going to probably enjoy every little bit of it. But now I'm going to turn it around and ask you, that since we're on a network with 3 big letters and national TV, do we get the final boss on Saturday?
So
if the match is more what you posited it may be, in that it is a destruction of R-Truth,
yeah,
in maybe an uncomfortable 5 to 7 minutes rather than the 20-minute Matt Classic, do we go off the air with the final boss coming back? I think there's a change. And I didn't think that until maybe I started thinking about it a couple minutes ago as you were talking. But I think here may be the time he comes. I really do.
So I hadn't given that a lot of thought. But now that I think about it, when you first said that, the first thing I thought was, who would come back first, the final boss or Cody? Because we still haven't seen Cody. Mm-hmm. And part of me still feels like Cody is going to be the person that Cena fights last, because I think he's going to drop the title back to Cody. So maybe you keep Cody off. Maybe you do get something with the final boss, right? And we, like you said, maybe the final boss is the person that is going to require Cena to step fully into an uncomfortable space that he may not be fully comfortable with.
Yeah, we just came to that idea at the same time, that John's going to walk away from a beaten R-Truth, but maybe how great would it be if the final boss comes out and commands a little more, a little more scalping done.
Yeah. I think both of those men have enough acting chops, and WWE's creative writing team will be able to pull it off, because that right there is going to require a storytelling element to be added to the finish of that match that would make sense with respect to the idea of The Rock bringing out something else in Cena, particularly because Cena has been showing these signs of kind of regretting what he's doing, right? But he's still doing it, right? It's not like he's doing this stuff and then he walks away with a cry face on. Like, no, he still does it, right? But he has these certain little stints, these little things every so often. It would just show a little chink in his armor. And how do you get The Rock to make his presence felt in a way that realistically would turn Cena back onto the offensive after maybe he has one of those little moments?
And I'm fully talking myself into something that's probably not.
Let's go, baby.
I would love to see happen is, yeah, you get that moment where John is going to leave a soundly beat R-Truth in the ring, but then the final boss comes out and demands his pound of flesh. And who better to sell that and to be the character on the receiving end of that than the one for years who has idolized John Cena and is still at that time thinking back to Star Wars, like you said, that there's some Anakin left in the Darth Vader of John Cena. And what's better than the final boss ordering Cena to destroy the one person who thinks there's good? Man, that would be great. I don't know if it's going to happen, but now I've talked myself into it.
You know what, Skeena? I like it. I like it because the thing when I was telling you what I thought was going to happen, the thing that I was struggling to kind of figure out was at what point in the match does R-Truth plead for the real Cena to come back, right? Because I think that R-Truth, just based on the history of his character, right, and how he plays his character on television, he's going to go obliviously into this match thinking that he can just turn John around like any kid would, right? I think he's going to go obliviously into this match. I think he's going to wrestle this match thinking, I'm just going to wrestle a good match. John's going to, turn around. And John is going to do what John's been doing, right? Which is beating him down in a way that is no flash, no fluff, right? Just the stuff. And he's going to do this in a way that is going to maybe be a bit underhanded, right? And yeah, let's go with your idea that he beats Truth soundly. Now, one of the things I was asking you was like, how soundly, right? I would love for him to beat R-Truth real snug. Like, not just Randy low blow, you know what I'm saying? But maybe, listen, bring back our best friend, the ref bump, right? Like, I think the ref bump should be in every one of Cena's go home matches. But
he inherited it.
He inherited from the tribal chief.
The tribal chief bequeathed the ref bump to Cena, and that's his.
Yes, he did not give him the Ula Fala. He gave him the ref bump. Fair. So, yeah, maybe we get a ref bump here. And in that ref bump, we get John doing something underhanded, right? Because I think that Truth should know what's up. No pun intended, but Truth should know what's up before the pinfall happens, right? Like, he should know what's up because you got to start getting John to reconsider and still go through with it, right? Because that's what Truth thinks that he can turn John away from, because that's what he called out at the press conference, that he cheated, right? I think you have to get a beat in there where Truth realizes he's not going to get John to not cheat, right? And then John, maybe he grabs the title, right? He tried to hit Truth. You get Truth his little spot, give him his flowers, right? Where he doesn't get the title hit in, and you get some back and forth stuff going. The ref comes back. The ref gets bumped again because we want as many ref bumps as possible, right? And then something happens. He hits Truth with the belt, right? And we're thinking, the fans thinking, the viewers are thinking, same old story, right? Like, is this not what he tried to do with Randy? Is this not what he did against Cody, right? Same deal, right? And we get maybe another scene where Cena beats Truth and he looks a little dejected, and then the final boss music hits, right? And Rock comes out there, and listen, his interest is going to be long enough for Truth to recover. So,
yep.
He'll come out there and he'll get in the ring and take that weight belt off and he'll hand it to Cena. And he'll be like, finish the job. And you'll get a good scene with R-Truth pleading with John. Like, don't do this. You're better than this. Don't do, you know what I mean? And then have Cena go to work. Give him a Cody beatdown like he did at Elimination Chamber. Bloody him up real good. Put him through an announce table. Like, put that work in and give us a bit of a payoff with regards to what it means to sell your soul to the final boss. You know,
There's
and I've seen it.
booking. That's
Yeah. So what now?
Get in my eyes.
Oh, I agree. Dude, listen, WWE, if you do have anybody who's in the writer's room that listens to the Lariat Lounge, Skeener and I would both clearly work for you if you made the offer. I know I would. Give me an out. So in a pivot, we're not going to get to this in this episode, but I do want to tee this up because I want to get an idea of where your head is at. Because I swear, dude, it has been intriguing me for the better part of a week.
Okay. Hit me with it.
You may know where I'm going. You may not. What is your general sentiment? If you had to give me your opening statement, Mr. Lawyer, sir. What is your opening statement with Charlotte Flair?
I would say that the thing speaks for itself in that she is what you see, and that I think is demonstrable great. The thing speaks for itself. Our famous legal tenor. The thing speaks for itself, and I think Charlotte does. I think she is well deserving of what she has gotten. I think what she has gotten has colored opinion in a way that I do not find fair, and I think echoes what has happened to so many superstars that have been overhated and underappreciated for too long. And then in black and white, the dates start counting down on the career on the Titantron. And I don't want that to happen for people with Charlotte. I want people to understand that they're seeing possibly the greatest women's superstar to ever do it and appreciate that before it's gone. Because frankly, the careers of women's superstars to this point have not lasted. And with injuries and things, how much longer do we get, in my view, blessed with one of the greatest to do it? And I think a lot of people are wasting a lot of time talking themselves into disliking one of the best of all. And I can rest the open.
Okay. So I've always loved watching court proceedings and following the law. I sometimes feel like I miss my calling. But that's a conversation for another day off air between two friends. But I would position, I guess, you as the defense opening.
Oh, I'm absolutely defending her.
Okay. So in this situation, I guess I am the prosecution. Mm-hmm. So if I had to give an opening statement, I would say, so what? I don't have a hating bone in my body for Charlotte Flair. I genuinely do not feel like, as a fan of professional wrestling, that I have really connected with Charlotte. This is not an impugning of her character, right? I'm not speaking at all about the personal life of this woman, but I've just not connected with her. And that's normal. Right? You're not going to connect with every professional wrestler that comes across the screen, greatness or not, right? I do, however, believe that there are two elements to transcendence as a professional wrestler. One is your ability in the ring. All of the greats did something exceptionally well in the ring, right? When it came to the physical aspect of the sport, entertainment, product that we consume. The other aspect of that is their ability to connect and resonate with the fans. If you cannot do both of these things in tandem, history has not boded well for you. My issue has nothing to do with Charlotte Flair as the person. It has everything to do with the fact that the pushback against Charlotte Flair is met with so many criticisms that I think are completely irrelevant to the reason why someone like myself says no. I don't think it's relevant that Charlotte Flair is the greatest in-ring performer of our age. If she doesn't connect with the fans in that way, she's not going to be given that spot. And I don't think that she should be given that spot just because she's the greatest wrestler in the ring. I think that is something that continues to happen with Charlotte that I think genuinely some fans are probably pushing back against. They just don't resonate with her, but yet she is continually put in a position that is supposed to make us feel like we are supposed to care, right? And it's one thing if WWE put her in a position where it's like, hey, we don't care what you think. But that's not what they do. They continually put her in a position where they make it seem like we're supposed to care, right? And it's like, I don't have to care. I don't have to care that she is the greatest female wrestler of our generation. I can admit that, right? But I don't think the best skills in the ring does the greatest professional wrestler make. I think you have to have it all. And I don't think she does. And if she does, then shame on WWE. Shame on WWE for never putting her in a position for her to be able to flesh her on-screen character out in a way that the fans can connect with. Shame on them for putting her in a very two-dimensional space, right? That makes it very easy for people to reject her or accept her, love her or hate her, right? Because you'll get the love when you get it, but when you get the hate, you get the hate. That's all you get. There's no dimensions. I don't think Charlotte has a ton of dimensions. I don't think she's ever really shown it. I don't think she's ever really been given the opportunity to show it. So even if I wanted to impugn both the WWE and the two-dimensional aspect of her character, I don't think that speaks anything to her as a person or to the fact that she's the greatest of a generation. I think she may be the greatest wrestler of a generation, but is she the greatest? Let me rephrase. She's the greatest maybe athlete that the women's division has ever seen. Is she the greatest wrestler because she's got the most title wins? I don't think so.
So, while counselor, that was beautifully said.
Thank you.
Very eloquent.
I take that very highly from you.
For the time being, I'm going to go ahead and move to strike all that testimony because I have myself and my client, the great Charlotte Flair, have not received adequate notice of the charges against her and cannot prepare a defense if we do not have the requisite time to prepare. So,
okay,
I asked for a suspension of these proceedings until both sides have had adequate preparation time. And I think, in the interest of fairness, that would be the best thing to do.
Counselor, I agree. Okay. I agree. And look, as a meta moment here, I take that as very high praise coming from you. So thank you for giving me that. That makes me very happy. So
hey,
yes,
that's all the same stuff I'd really say in court if someone hit me that I wasn't prepared to respond to. So you just got to say it in an official way.
Fair. This is true because you will get objections all the way to Sunday if you're not saying it the right way. So yes, let's table this. But I did just want to kind of get an idea. I did not think that it was a position you were going to take. But once you said it, I was like, okay, I get it. So
here's the thing. I definitely unabashedly love Charlotte.
Sure.
But I think it comes from a place, and I'll go ahead and out myself and my biases. If I get told for too long by the larger internet that a wrestler or something sucks, I'll probably try to find a way to start liking it. And did that happen here? Maybe. But I'm very secure in this view.
Listen, you and I
regardless of its origins, I'm dug in and I'm not moving.
Listen, I will say this. I think you and I at a base level are both somewhat contrarian in nature. I think it just comes with the territory. I will say this a little bit so we don't spoil too much of this because I feel like this would be a very awesome episode.
Yes, sir.
This to me,
right for discussion.
Oh, absolutely. This for me comes in no way from the perspective of any internet trolls online.
Which again is going to be there are certain more thought out ways and opinions more deserving of a response like yours than a lot of the others that are out there regarding Charlotte Flair that frankly do not deserve the time of day or response.
Oh, I agree, dude. Listen, there are a lot of criticisms about Charlotte that I out and out just don't even care about. Like,
and that unfortunately in turn, then when someone has a real thought out, well-reasoned opinion counter to mine like you have, unfortunately you get lumped in with,
of course,
everyone on your side. And I'm not saying I'm doing that to you, but in the wider discourse, you're on one team or the other.
True.
And sometimes your team weighs you down.
Dude, I don't disagree. And I definitely feel like being in a position where your stance is more in line with the popular viewpoint, right? When put on trial in such a way, sometimes that position can seem like you're kind of beating up on, you know what I'm saying? You're beating up on the opposition. And that's not necessarily where I come from. My position is just simply that Charlotte is, I have seen her in interviews. I've seen her I watched quite a few videos of Sheamus's workout videos. Mm-hmm. And I watched the episode where he was working out with Charlotte after she rehabbed from her knee injury. And I just remember thinking as they were talking, right? Like there's so much of her there that people could connect with, that if WWE really just took the time to sit down and cultivate something, right, that could resonate with people, you would overcome a lot of the objections. WWE fans are fickle by their nature. And if you give them something to latch onto, they'll latch onto it. And obviously they'll do it as long as they want, because that's fans, right? I feel like WWE may have just done a supreme disservice with her character by leaning just way too easy and heavy on the idea that she's so good that she's Rick's daughter and the Flair name. And I think it just ran its course. And then you put too many titles on her. She gets Cena'd.
Hey, you brought up that comparison after I did, so thanks for making the point. But I in all seriousness, I definitely agree with you there. And I really thought that this comeback may be the time they would go that way, because she was getting out there in other ways and doing, out of character interviews, speaking about what she'd gone through in real life. And I thought this was the time that maybe you bring that in. But again, I think, it's strange that I remember this, but I don't want to get too heavy into biases and all that. I think you could pick up where I'm going on this. But
sure.
Did they try this? Did they try that kind of? Do you remember? It may have been during COVID era when they had Lacey Evans come out and start doing like pretty much sob story promos for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't hitting, and people turned on it, and they eventually went the other way with it. Does that make them gun shy to do that with Charlotte?
I would say this.
Is it worse to have her where she is now, or to have her bare her soul and still have people reject it?
I'll say this. I think WWE is gun shy, but I don't think they're gun shy because of the fallout from Lacey Evans. I think they were gun shy. Right. I think they were gun shy during Lacey Evans, and they've never figured out how to be un-gun shy. She did, and mind you, these were like work shoots, right? With Lacey Evans giving these sob stories about her background and stuff like that, right? But what they did, in my mind, was so stupid. They segued that into her military background and tried to make her look like G.I. Jane, right? When that wasn't the direction that you were leaning in initially. And I'm not even saying that the initial idea would have worked. I'm just saying that you did this strange pivot, WWE, that did not make any sense, right? And I think we were past the days then, just like we are now, where you can sell WWE fans anything. And I think that they did not do, they did what they usually do with female wrestlers, right? Which is they did not put a lot of time and investment into building the characters out. Right? It's a trope that WWE has had for many moons with women, with wrestlers of color. They've always done these things where they don't really give enough time to flesh the characters out, right? And they lean too heavy on archetypes and unhealthy stereotypes, right? To bridge the gap for things that they're unwilling to sit down and actually freaking write. And so WWE does this stupid thing with Lacey Evans, right? And the fans just reject it wholesale. I saw the same thing happen with Charlotte.
And I think the Lacey Evans stuff didn't work. And my counter, and I wasn't, I'm not fully in on that. I was just throwing that out there
Yeah.
for discussion. I think people sniffed that out, that it didn't feel genuine. But, that it would be tough for me I'm going to say I understand from a perspective of management and taking care of the performer behind the character, to have Charlotte come back from this, her injuries and her personal life and all the things that happen there, to come back and then have her do the bear it all character and risk the negative response. I get that. So that's where it's like, I think they're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Like, what is worse? Again, what's worse? Having her where she is now, or maybe putting the real person behind the performer through unintentional hell because a character wasn't received. I don't know. Big discussion for another day, though.
Yeah, it is. And I hear you. And this is the last thing I'll say about it. I just think, and I'll keep it skim, because I definitely would love to revisit this in another episode. We can dive deep into it. But I think that WWE, wow, okay, hot take. I don't think this was intentional. And maybe it was WWE being gun shy, but I think they sabotaged Charlotte Flair's return. I think they sabotaged it, whether willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or not. She had a groundswell of support from people who knew about how bad her injury was. She was out for quite a while, right? And she was doing press, and the press was talking about her knee injury, right? And she had videos that were up, some videos, right, about her rehabbing, her getting back in the gym. Why would you not lean into that? Why would you make her a promo package, the rich girl on the yacht? Are you kidding? You have it in the palm of your hand. And the reason why it seems so stupid is because when she finally comes back, the first promo she makes is I missed you guys and I worked so hard to get back, but you sell me the rich, snooty, uppity girl who don't care about anything because she's on her yacht. Why would you do that, WWE? That makes zero sense, particularly because where the groundswell of attention was prior to her return. I don't get it. You could have put Charlotte in the wrestling scene and not right at the top, and have her be great and wrestle her way back to the top. But they didn't do that. They went another route. You know what I'm saying? And it landed where it landed. And to that, no discredit to Charlotte, but discredit to how she's handled. And, I don't know how much she has to say in the background, behind the scenes, on her character and how they portray her character. But if I were her, I'd be in front of somebody's desk being like, this is BS. This is BS. This was handled all wrong. But, I don't wrestle. I don't work there. So I don't know what that looks like, what that culture is, right? Or how easy it is for WWE to pivot and make changes with things. Because it seems like once they're locked in with something, it's got to run a bit of course before they can course correct. But at this point, it's arguable whether or not it makes a difference, because some fans are just tainted and jaded and they will never like certain things and certain people. And it's a shame, because we know that that's actually not the case. You give them what they want, they'll say they hate it until they get it, then they want it, and then they don't want it. You know how fans are.
I agree. I will say, I don't think it's ever too late to do it. I don't think damage is irreparable. I don't disagree with a lot of what you've said. Again, my biggest thing is I push back against what I see as a little bit of the less well-reasoned things that are kind of the mob mentality of not liking this. And I would urge more people to appreciate you've got while it's here. Like, maybe we look back and, some of the early Roman's Reigns stuff isn't, but, some of it's probably not that bad. But a lot of people wasted time I think disliking it because they thought they were supposed to dislike, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
In the same way with the early John Cena. And I really do see the parallels between that and Charlotte. I don't, I want to stay away from the title numbers because I think it gets weird because Charlotte was there and was the most ready to be that person at the time where they were really gonna focus on the quote unquote women's revolution.
Sure.
And I think they just handled it again in a strange way that may have been a disservice to her for the short and long term in terms of fan, finding additional Charlotte Flair title reigns to be. But again, I think we'll save this. We'll save our full discussion for another time.
Yes, because the more we talk about this, the more things come up, not just about Charlotte, because you just tapped on something that I think is absolutely a part of this whole story, right? And that's, the four horsewomen, the women's evolution, and how, oh man, dude, we're going to do this episode because I think this is good. That's an incredible episode. And I think we just need to schedule it, but
yeah, let me see where Money in the Bank is, or when it is.
It's coming up relatively soon, sometime in June.
Apparently this date is harder to find than you would think by just simply Googling it. June 7th.
I thought so. It's like June 7th or June 8th, something like that, right? Because they have Worlds Collide at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got like a week or so in between, right? Because Saturday Night's Main Event is this weekend. Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank is not next weekend, is it?
No.
Okay, so it's 2 weeks.
Be a week in between. Yeah.
Okay, so look, let's do our recap episode next week. And then the following week, let's do the Charlotte episode. This would be perfect. Like if we had like a Patreon, This would be perfect as like a bonus episode.
Yeah.
This would be perfect. You know what? Maybe we'll do a bonus episode and we'll just drop an additional episode just for the fans.
I love that. Give them a little something extra.
Let's give them a little something extra. Listen, we crossed 50 listens. On Saturday. So
we're getting close. We're getting close to. We'll have to start having post-show press conferences and tout the numbers like Triple H.
Yeah. I'm wearing more rings than I'm currently wearing, and I'm gonna put all my bracelets on, and I'm gonna sit. Our
biggest gate to date, domestic gate.
Every gate is the biggest domestic gate since the last one.
Better to be on the upswing than the downswing.
True. Skeener, tell the fans where they can reach us.
You can hit us up at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We may have to re-record. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SkeensEF, product of my time with that with that handle, but it's still there. Shoot me a message. I know Everson's trying to work on his socials, get them up and appear a little bit every week.
Yeah, and
please reach out to us. Thoughts, ideas on the shows, thoughts, ideas about wrestling, life in general. We're more than happy to hear from everyone.
And please check us out at thelariatlounge.buzzsprout.com. That's the website. And you can also reach us on YouTube. I do check out the comment sections. So, leave us a comment there. I feel like I have the Lariat Lounge set up somewhere else. I just can't remember exactly where it's at. You know what, dude? I might have to smack myself because I might already have an Instagram set up for that. And I just might have forgotten. But either way, we appreciate you all being here. Thank you for getting us over 50 listens. It's important to us. We really do appreciate it. We're still getting more and more people each week listening to the podcast. So we appreciate you. That's why we show up here. To talk with each other, to talk about something that we love, but also because you guys show up here. I think about all the time the fact that 50 people listen to this podcast. If we had 50 people in a room and we were talking to them right now, that'd be a packed room. That's a lot of people in a room. So
we'd have to check the fire code on some rooms.
Absolutely. If that was a house party, it'd be packed in here. So we appreciate you all. We love you all. Please come back. Next week is going to be the post Saturday Night's Main Event. Hopefully we'll get some really awesome stuff. I know we will with certain matches, but seriously, we love you guys. This is the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.